This is another RodCast from political activist and descendant of President Andrew Jackson through my Donaldson family. Uh, I want to discuss some things that are called solutions. One of the biggest problems that we face here in the United States is trying to get the revenue to run the country. And you try to break it down into layman's terms so that people can understand the significance of the oldest system known to man when it comes to governing successfully, and that's capitalism. We create revenue through taxes, and we spend the money that the government makes on things like infrastructure. And so we can't spend more than we take in. It's a simple concept. If you get a pen and a piece of paper out, you can break out a monthly budget in no time at all. Now it's more complicated for the government because we have more expenditures and we have more ways of revenue. But one way that we can really run this country efficiently is to do away with currency. And we're not that far off. If you go to grocery stores and other retail outlets, you will rarely find a place that won't take a credit card or debit card. So all we're really talking about doing is getting the American consumer and the banking system ready and confident that we can successfully transfer over to a complete credit economy. What that'll do is it will allow the government as well as the household citizens to better monitor the activity of purchases, expenditures, and income, and be able to address things like tax fraud, drug dealing, and all the other black market options that are out there when you have cash that can't be accounted for. For instance, let's just say that you believe that you've got a person in your town who's a drug dealer, and they don't work, but they have a new car and they have a new house and they have all this stuff. Well, we can bring in a task force or the IRS, and we can sit down and say, here's your income from what you do for money. And we can see it through the deposits here. And what you do when you spend your money seems to happen in this geographical area because that's where you always get your money out. You see? With credits, it's real simple. I got to pay you. I can't go get the cash to go pay you. I got to pay you. And that means your name's on the ticket. And that's going to alleviate a hell of a lot of tax fraud. For instance, who the hell is going to work for a landscaping company if they're not going to get paid? And how the hell else are you going to pay them except for deposit those credits on their account? You see? And that makes it a verifiable taxable income. It would create a tremendous amount of revenue in this country that is not accounted for. Now, when you institute the taxes that should go on to all employees and employers, you will create a revenue that would be something to be proud of. Also, you would be able to see some of these companies that don't exist on paper. And we would be able to make sure that the workers out there are provided things like workman's compensation. And that we can make sure that they're getting paid correctly. We can take a look at things collapsing, like prostitution, like illegal gambling, and like drug activity. The benefits of moving to an electronic funds transfer economy are tremendous. And what the problems are what they always are, the banks. Because you're no longer going to have the fees associated with the ATM machines. You're no longer going to need the staff there to count the money and such. And it's going to shrink up the bureaucracy that has become the banking system. They need to be shrunk up because how many times have we heard about the bailouts where the government had to bail the banks out? Now that we've moved to that, we can take a look at some of the other issues we have in our government when it comes to running an efficient budget. And one of those things is listed in my Mother's Mercy 3.2 proposal that I have sent on to most of the Senate and most of the Congress in the state of Ohio and a lot of other people. And that is, whose responsibility is it to help these homeless children and all the struggling young adults out here? Is it the government's? Because if it is, I like the idea of creating programs where if we're going to help you, then you're going to get out here and do something for us. And you're just going to become part of our, I hate to say National Guard, but something like that. You're going to become a member of a group that we send out to do things to make a better America. And I'll tie my U.S. for Hope campaign in on that and start sending people down to Mexico and start trying to address things like a lack of education, trying to get people to fit in, to build confidence up in who they are, and to be able to go down here and staff these missions so that we can spread the knowledge and spread the information of how to become a better society and turn these Latino families' lives around with education, with teaching trades, and with assisting with the Mexican government. And so, with that being done, we would curb the need for these Latinos to try to seek a better living arrangement in the United States by creating a better opportunity for them to succeed in Mexico. The NAFTA agreement would be a great template to use as we begin to push businesses in the direction of Mexico and Latin America. And we can do that more proficiently because we're operating on an electronic funds society. So we can incentivize and monitor companies to go assist in rebuilding the Mexican infrastructure through things like excise taxes, through things like import taxes, and trying to steer people into a better situation and making things like General Motors and Ford's cars reflect the savings as a government by holding them accountable on paper and saying, look, you guys moved down here. You no longer have the overhead expenses of ergonomics. You no longer have to have your committees and subcommittees because you're operating under a different set of standards. So the cars that come back to the United States should reflect the lower cost to the company when they hit the retail outlets that we have here, instead of you keeping the profits and not abiding by what the guidelines were in the first place for NAFTA, which is to create a better Mexico. And we can shame them by showing the reports, because there's no way to hide what's going on here, fellas. You're paying a lot less, and the cars are costing the same or more. So you're not putting the effort in to the effort that was put into the NAFTA bill when Bill Clinton took the time to put these committees together from the Ivy League schools and try to understand how to strengthen the pesos so that we could avert a lot of these problems that came with the immigration issue. That's my report for today. I hope that people get out here and try to understand more about the Democratic Party